Hello everyone and welcome to the weird, scary and horrible parts of humanity. Today we are continuing our look into the wives and partners of dictators and former world leaders following our analysis of Elena Ceausescu. Today we are looking at the mistress and debatably the true love of Benito Mussolini, Clara Petacci, who was born Claretta da Musocco Petacci. Mussolini was the fascist dictator of Italy as the Duce of Fascism between the 23rd of March 1919 and the 28th of April 1945, Prime Minister of Italy between the 31st of October 1922 and the 25th of July 1943, before becoming the Duce of the Italian Socialist Republic from the 23rd of September 1943 until the 25th of April 1945. Mussolini would become best known for his role in World War II, with Italy supporting Germany, with Italy entering the war and declaring war on France and the United Kingdom on the 10th of June 1940. In many ways, Petacci would be the loyal lapdog of Mussolini, and more loyal and doting towards him than both of his wives, with her cult-like adoration for Il Duce manifesting from her teenage years. Petacci was the daughter of Giuseppina Pericetti, born on the 16th of January 1888, and Dr. Francesco Saviero Petacci, born on the 3rd of December 1882. She was born on the 28th of February 1912 in Rome, in what was then the capital of the Kingdom of Italy, which would exist until the 12th of June 1946, with King Victor Emmanuel III abdicating on the 9th of May 1946 to create the modern-day Italian Republic. Her father was a highly religious individual and one of the Vatican doctors, as well as having his own practice. The Paris March, a weekly language magazine published in France, reported in 1972 that Mussolini had arranged for a lethal injection administered by Dr. Francesco Saviero Petacci to assassinate Pope Pius XI, with the Pope intending to criticise Mussolini and fascism in a speech in early 1939. With Roman Catholicism at the time the state religion of Italy, this would have represented a major embarrassment and loss of support for Mussolini's fascist regime. However, this was quickly rebuffed by the Vatican, and it was alleged that Petacci had no access to Pope Pius XI. Pope Pius XI would die on the 10th of February 1939, to be replaced by Pope Pius XII. However, numerous sources note that Petacci's father was the personal doctor of Pope Pius XI. Simultaneously, her father was a strong supporter of fascism, and in many ways, both his support for fascism and his religiosity would permeate onto his daughter in ways that no one could ever have imagined. She was the middle of three children. Marcello Petacci, her brother, was born on the 1st of May 1910, while her younger sister, Maria Petacci, who would go by Miriam di Sansevolo, was born on the 31st of May 1923. Clara Petacci was aged 10 when Mussolini came to power, and potentially through a combination of her father's support as well as propaganda, she would develop a strong love for Mussolini. As a child, she studied music and was the student of violinist Corrado Archibuggi. While much of the correspondence between Petacci and Mussolini has not been released, she started writing to him in her early teenage years, shortly after he came to power. On the 7th of April 1926, Mussolini walked among a crowd in the Piazza del Campidoglio in Rome after leaving an assembly of the International Congress of Surgeons, having delivered a speech on the wonders of modern medicine. Violet Gibson had armed herself with a rock and a model 1892 revolver, both of which were disguised in a black shawl. Firing once at Mussolini, he moved his head, leading Gibson to shoot his nose, which was grazed. She tried again, but the gun misfired. Gibson was almost lynched by the crowd before Italian police intervened. Declared insane, Gibson was deported to the United Kingdom as she did not hold Irish citizenship, despite having been born in Dublin in 1876, with Ireland at the time under the United Kingdom. Gibson had previously spent 2 years in a mental hospital following a nervous breakdown in 1922, and would attempt suicide in Rome in early 1925. She would spend the rest of her life in the psychiatric hospital St Andrew's Hospital in Northampton in the United Kingdom before passing away on the 2nd of May 1956. At the time that Gibson tried to take Mussolini's life, Petacci was aged 14. Petacci would write to Mussolini on the same day, her first of many letters stating, "O Duce, why was I not with you? Could I have strangled that murderous woman?" But despite fanatically writing to Mussolini, it is not known if Petacci received a personalised correspondence or indeed any correspondence from Il Duce. On the 24th of April 1932, her family was driving in Rome with her sister, mother, and her future husband and then boyfriend, Riccardo Federici, in a Lancia Astura. The car was driven by Saviero Coppola, the family driver. At the time, she was aged 20 and Mussolini was 2 months shy of 49. Mussolini happened to be driving to Ostia with an aide in his red Alfa Romeo 6C1750 Gran Turismo, with Mussolini driving. Mussolini overtook the Petacci's Lancia, and the now 20-year-old Petacci would call out "Duce, Duce," leading him to pull over and meet Petacci, with Petacci telling him that she had written to him since her early teen years, and in many ways, despite Mussolini being almost 28 years her senior, it seems as if it was love at first sight. She would ultimately become his mistress until 1934. However, Mussolini was married to Rachel Guidi, having married Mussolini on the 17th of December 1915 in a civil ceremony in Treviglio, Lombardia, before renewing their vows in a religious service in 1925. At the age of 22, Petacci would marry Italian Air Force officer Riccardo Federici in 1934, but in 1936 Federici was sent to Tokyo, Japan as an air attaché. As a result, Petacci would separate from him, but never divorced him, as this was not allowed by the Roman Catholic Church. While Mussolini was still married, Petacci would rekindle her relationship with Mussolini in 1936, visiting his headquarters in Palazzo Venezia in Roma. By 1938, she was the only mistress of Mussolini. She began to affectionately call him Ben. Mussolini would have a small apartment reserved just for her, as well as a driver and bodyguards. Just as with her teenage years, it is believed that Petacci truly cared for and loved Mussolini. Both would have an intense, albeit violent sexual relationship, with Mussolini allegedly a violent lover. Indeed, her diaries would describe Mussolini as a sex addict who occasionally suffered from impotence. However, both were able to keep the affair hidden from the public, although the Petacci family gradually began to manipulate the courtship between Petacci and Mussolini, and by 1939 Italia knew that their leader was a philanderer, with the Petaccis nicknamed the Clan Petacci. This manifested as a result of the family having a luxurious villa built on the slopes of Monte Mario in the rationalist style of La Camiluccia. This led to the relationship becoming public knowledge. This also led her mother to be labelled as halfway between a boxer and a caryatid with an iron hand. Miriam di Sansevolo would begin her acting career and utilise connections within the fascist regime to further her acting career, starring in fascist movies. During the regime, she was the lead actress as La Duchessa Anna Castellani in La Via del Cuore, which was made in 1942 and nominated for the Mussolini Cup as the Best Italian Film. In 1943, she would play the lead role Bianca de Simorese in the movie L'Amico delle Donne, and in the same year played the role of Mary in Sogno d'Amore. However, the one who would benefit the most from his sister's rendezvous was Marcello Petacci. In 1939, he became a lecturer in surgical pathology, and in 1940 became an opponent of Carmine Sinise, the chief of the Italian police, between the 20th of November 1940 and the 14th of April 1943. Petacci would attempt to, albeit unsuccessfully, dismiss Sinise in 1940. In 1941, Marcello Petacci was labelled a swindling businessman and became hated amongst fascist colleagues of Mussolini, with the head of the OVRA, the secret police of a fascist regime from October 1938 until April 1945, Guido Letto, noting that Petacci did more harm to Mussolini than 15 lost battles. In 1942, he became director of a hospital in Venice and bought a villa in Merano, becoming criticised for his profiteer-like behaviour. He also engaged in trafficking throughout the war, including the purchase of tin from Portugal and rubber from France, and would sell it on, with Italy at the time in dire needs of basic items. In June 1942, he attempted to illegally traffic 18 kilograms of gold from Spain to Italy by diplomatic courier, leading to an angry Mussolini chastising him and ordering him to refrain from trafficking. However, as World War II continued, it would turn out that Italy was absolutely hopeless in fighting. The Second Battle of El Alamein, which took place near the Egyptian railway halt of El Alamein, prevented the Axis powers from advancing further into Egypt. Furthermore, Operation Torch in what was then French Morocco and French Algeria between the 8th and 16th of November 1942 prevented the Axis powers from advancing into Africa. Between July 1942 and April 1943, 235,000 Italian soldiers were sent into the Soviet Union during the Battle of Stalingrad and the Battle of Nikolaevka. The Battle of Stalingrad saw an estimated 114,000 to 130,000 Italian casualties, with the battle for modern-day Volgograd lasting between the 17th of July 1942 and the 2nd of February 1943. Throughout the entire campaign in the Soviet Union, 87,795 Italian soldiers were either killed or missing. Moreover, ground force attacks by the Allied forces on Tunis, Cap Bon and Bierte, all in Tunisia during the Tunisian campaign between the 22nd of April 1943 and the 12th of May 1943, saw the Axis footholds in Tunisia fall. Ultimately, this meant that the next in line was Italy, with the Allies landing in Sicily on the 10th of July 1943. Quickly making their way up Italy, on the 25th of July 1943, Mussolini was arrested, with King Emanuele III appointing the former Governor-General of the Italian East Africa, Viceroy of Ethiopia, Pietro Badoglio, as Prime Minister of Italy. On that day at 10:45 p.m. it was announced that Mussolini had resigned and that Badoglio would be the new Prime Minister of Italy. Despite the initial support for Mussolini, Italians never really wanted to be involved in nor part of the Axis powers, and ran out of their homes and chased away the fascist police, and also destroyed any fascist emblems, removing propaganda posters. Without firing a shot, Italy was rid of fascism. However, Adolf Hitler was infuriated with German troops brought down to Italy, with 8 German divisions and 1 brigade, from the 26th of July until the 8th of August, heading down through northern and central Italy. This was performed under Operation Acese, with Nazi Germany supported by Croatia and Romania. This resulted in the deaths of between 20,000 and 30,000 Italians, with 1,006,370 Italian soldiers disarmed, with the operation ending on the 3rd of September 1943 and an armistice between Italy and the Allies on the same day, which was made public on the 8th of September 1943, Italy became a divided country, with Germany controlling northern and central Italy, while the Allies controlled Sardinia, Corsica and southern Italy. Carletta and her sister were both kept in prison, and during their time in prison their villa was destroyed. Ironically, Mussolini's villa, which was right next door to the Petacci's villa, was not destroyed, which showed how much the Italian public utterly hated the Petacci Clan. During the Gran Sasso raid on the 12th of September 1943, Mussolini was freed from prison, having been held in Albergo di Campo Imperatore on the top of Campo Imperatore in the massif of Gran Sasso d'Italia in L'Aquila in Abruzzo. Mussolini was in essence made a puppet head leader in northern and central Italy under the thumb of Nazi Germany. Throughout all of this insanity, Petacci and ironically also Rachele Mussolini were loyal to Il Duce. During this time they lived in Villa delle Ossolione in Garganano in Lombardia on the western shore of Lago di Garda. She would insist that Mussolini become increasingly resolute and harsher towards his opponents, especially the Jews. However, Italy would be engulfed in a civil war between the 8th of September 1943 and the 2nd of May 1945. In the summer of 1944, the Allies took Rome and then Florence. With the Allies approaching on the 18th of April 1945, Mussolini moved his entire government to Milan, which it appears was a plan to escape to Switzerland. Petacci would move with him on the 26th of April, with both making several attempts to escape, albeit unsuccessfully, into Switzerland. While Rachele Mussolini did attempt to, albeit unsuccessfully, escape Italy numerous times, Mussolini had basically abandoned her by this stage and she was forced to fend for herself. On the 27th of April 1945, both Mussolini and Petacci would join a Luftwaffe column, travelling in a column retreating northwards to Germany with the aim of getting to Switzerland and then into Spain. Clara was travelling in an Alfa Romeo 6C 2500 Superleggera with a Spanish flag on the car. It was driven by her brother Marcello Petacci. This was despite numerous Latin American countries having offered them asylum. However, a group of local communist partisans attacked the convoy in which Mussolini and Petacci were travelling, with the convoy led by Pier Luigi Bellini delle Stelle and Urbano Lazzargo. By this stage, they were near the village of Dongo on the northwestern shore of Lago di Como. Stelle and Lazzargo recognized Clara and Marcello Petacci as well as Mussolini. The Luftwaffe gave them up in exchange for a free and open passage to continue on to Switzerland and ultimately up to Germany. Mussolini was taken to the outskirts of Dongo, spending the night at the local barracks. Petacci by this stage was a loyal lapdog, demanding to be reunited with Mussolini, and at about 2:30 a.m. on the 28th of April they were reunited. It was decided by the Italian Communist Party that Mussolini should be executed as soon as possible. Aldo Lampredi, Corporal General of the Italian Resistance Movement, and Walter Audisio took them both to Dongo on the morning of the 28th of April, with the two held at a farmhouse owned by the peasant family De Maria. On arrival at Dongo, they met Bellini delle Stelle, the local partisan commander, as well as Michele Moretti, head of the 58th Brigade, Garibaldi Luigi Clerici. They then drove to Giuliano di Mezzagerra. They then stopped at Villa Belmonte, south of the village of Giuliano di Mezzagerra, and the two were told to get out and stand by the wall at Villa Belmonte. However, Adusio's gun had jammed, and he took Moretti's MAS-38 submachine gun, killing them both. It was found that Mussolini had 9 bullets in him, with the bullets near his heart, which caused his death. However, whether or not they intended to kill Petacci is debatable to this day. She actually threw herself in front of the bullets, trying to save the life of Mussolini, ironically exactly what she said she would do in the letters to him as a teenager when Mussolini was attacked by Violet Gibson. It was alleged, however, by some historians that they didn't intend to kill Petacci, which doesn't make a lot of sense since they were both forced against the wall of Villa Belmonte. She was 33 years old. On the 29th of February, the bodies of Petacci, Mussolini, Marcello Petacci, and we will come back to him in a minute, Nicola Bombacci, who remained loyal to Mussolini and attempted to reunite Italy under fascism, as well as Alessandro Pavolini, the secretary of the Republican Fascist Party and former Minister of Popular Culture, and Achille Starace, the former secretary of the National Fascist Party until 1939 and a loyalist of Mussolini, were taken to Milan. There the bodies were hung upside down from the roof of an Esso petrol station in the square of Piazzale Lorento in Milan to prove that they were dead. The picture of the corpses hung by their legs upside down, surrounded by an elated and jeering crowd, would become one of the most infamous images of the history of modern Italy. Petacci was to the right of Mussolini, with her feet the highest side at the bottom of her feet due to her height. She was only 5 foot 3 inches or 160 metres, while Mussolini by comparison was 169 metres or 5 foot 7. The bodies were kept up until 2 p.m. when the US military ordered the bodies to be taken down, with the Roman Catholic Cardinal of Milan also protesting at 1 p.m. Mussolini and Petacci's bodies were taken for post-mortem at the Institute of Legal Medicine. It was there that a US Army cameraman placed them together and positioned the corpses as if they were arm in arm. While this photograph was labelled as macabre, I can't help but to think that this is exactly what Petacci would have wanted. It was found that she had been executed by 9mm bullets. She was buried on the 30th of April 1945 under the pseudonym Rita Colfosco, which she had previously used in correspondence with her sister. In 1956, her body was exhumed by the Petacci family when they returned from exile in Spain to Italy. Her body was put in Rome's Verano Cemetery in a pink marble tomb which was topped with a white marble statue. By 2015, Verano Cemetery would report that her tomb was in a state of disarray and neglect, and by 2017 it was returned to its former glory, utilising citizens' funding. But what about the rest of the family? Well, with the fall of the fascist regime, Marcello Petacci was arrested for his closeness to Mussolini before being freed by Nazi Germany. On the 19th of April 1945, Petacci and his wife, Zita Ritossa, and their 2 children used false passports issued by the Spanish consulate in Milan under the name of the Molanos and paid 1 million lire to smugglers to get to Canton Ticino in Switzerland. There they were ironically hosted by a close family to them who were Jewish, the Rosenberg family. The 4 were discovered by Swiss police and interned in a camp in Bellinzona, where Marcello worked as a sergeant before they were returned to Milan on the 23rd of April 1945. Attempting to escape once again, Petacci, on the 27th of April 1945, drove an Alfa Romeo 6C 2500 Superleggera with a Spanish flag, with Clara in the back. He had a false Spanish diplomatic passport under the name of Don Juan Munez y Castillo. Reaching Dongo, they were arrested. It was decided that Marcello Petacci would be shot separately to his sister and Mussolini. On the 28th of April, he tried to escape by swimming across Lago di Como, but was peppered with machine gun bullets. His body would be displayed along with that of his sister. Miriam di Sansevolo would emigrate along with her family to Spain and continued acting under the name Miriam Day. She starred in numerous movies until 1954, but became a costume designer in the 1959 movie Brevi Amori a Palma de Mallorca. In 1984, she made a return to acting, starring in the movie Claretta. She would pass away on the 25th of May 1991. Her mother, Giuseppina Pesicchetti, would pass away in Rome on the 19th of March 1962, while her father would pass away on the 7th of July 1970. The 4 were buried in the same tomb in Verano Cemetery. Riccardo Federici would pass away in 1972. Rachele Mussolini tried to flee Italy for Switzerland in April 1945, but was arrested in Como. She was handed over to the US Army and kept on Ischia Island, but released after 3 months. She would then open up a restaurant in her native village of Predapapio, passing away in Forlì on the 30th of October 1979. Thank you for watching. Please do yourself a favour and hit that subscribe button and the bell icon to be notified of when new videos come out. Also, why not hit that like button and leave a nice comment? It helps more than you know, and your support is truly appreciated. Until next time, stay awesome, stay classy, be kind to everyone you meet, have an amazing day, and remember the truth is always more interesting than fiction.